Everyone in the city knew Eleanor Whitmore. Her name echoed through glass towers, charity galas, and financial headlines. A self-made millionaire before 35, she was admired, envied, and quietly resented. To the public, Eleanor was elegance wrapped in confidence. To those who worked around her, she was sharp, demanding, and emotionally untouchable. Love, she often joked, was a luxury she didn't have time to invest in. The Whitmore Foundation building stood like a monument to her success, all marble floors and tall windows that overlooked the river. Inside, employees moved quickly, dressed well, careful not to waste time or make mistakes. Somewhere in the background, unnoticed by almost everyone, worked a man named Daniel Reed. Daniel was the night cleaner. He arrived after sunset, when meetings were over and voices faded into silence. He emptied bins, polished floors, wiped fingerprints from glass doors. He wore simple clothes, always kept his head down, and spoke only when spoken to. Most people assumed he was uneducated, invisible, temporary. No one asked about his past, and he never offered it. What no one knew was that Daniel had once performed on stages that made people cry. That his hands had once been insured for more than the entire building he now cleaned. That a single tragic night had erased his name from the world of music. On this particular evening, Eleanor hosted a private fundraiser. The city's elite gathered in the building's grand hall, sipping champagne, discussing investments, laughing too loudly. At the center of the room stood a glossy black grand piano, hired for the night to impress donors. Eleanor stood nearby, dressed in a sleek silver gown, smiling politely as people praised her success. Yet behind her eyes was boredom. She had heard every compliment, every flirtatious remark, every predictable promise. To her, it was all noise. A well-known pianist finished a performance to polite applause. Eleanor clapped briefly, then checked her watch. Music is lovely, she said to the group around her, but it's also predictable. Someone laughed. Careful, Eleanor. You'll offend the artists. She smirked. I doubt it. Genius is rare. Most people just repeat what's already been done. That was when she noticed Daniel. He stood near the edge of the hall with a mop, waiting patiently for people to move so he could clean a spill. He was watching the piano, not the crowd. His eyes weren't wandering or tired. They were focused, almost aching. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Do you play? She asked suddenly. The room went quiet. Daniel looked up, startled. Excuse me, he said softly. The piano, Eleanor said, pointing. Do you play? A few guests chuckled. Someone whispered, this should be good. Daniel hesitated. I used to. Eleanor laughed, a light, dismissive sound. Everyone used to. Tell you what, she said, her voice playful but sharp. Play something. If you impress me, I'll marry you. Laughter burst through the room. Daniel's face flushed. He shook his head. I'm working. Oh, come on, someone said. Entertain us. Eleanor crossed her arms, amused. Unless you're afraid. Something in her tone shifted. It wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It was challenge. Daniel looked at the piano again. His hands trembled slightly. I don't play for jokes, he said. Eleanor stepped closer. Then play for yourself. Silence stretched. Finally, Daniel set the mop aside. He walked to the piano. People expected something awkward, maybe a few wrong notes before embarrassment sent him running. Eleanor leaned against a table, smiling, already certain this would be a story she'd laugh about later. Daniel sat. The first note changed the air. It was soft, almost hesitant, but it carried weight. Conversations died. Instantly. The second note followed, then a melody so raw and haunting that it felt like a confession. His fingers moved with precision and emotion, weaving sorrow and hope together. Eleanor's smile vanished. The room held its breath. Daniel wasn't performing. He was remembering. Loss poured through the music. Love, regret, and resilience flowed from his hands. It was unlike anything anyone there had heard. Someone dropped a glass. No one noticed. Eleanor stood frozen, her heart pounding in a way she hadn't felt in years. This wasn't background music. This was truth. When the final note faded, the silence lasted several seconds longer than the song itself. Then applause erupted. Not polite. Not forced. It was thunderous. Daniel stood quickly, eyes down. I should get back to work, he said. Eleanor stepped forward. Wait. The room quieted again. What's your name? She asked. Daniel. Daniel what? He hesitated. Read. She studied him. You're not a cleaner. He met her eyes for the first time. I am now. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. The music replayed in her mind, every note echoing. She searched his name online. Nothing. No social media. No records beyond basic employment history. The mystery unsettled her. The next evening, she waited until late. When Daniel began cleaning the executive floor, she approached him. Why did you stop playing? She asked. Daniel kept wiping the desk. Because talent doesn't protect you from life. She frowned. That's not an answer. He sighed. I had a career. International tours. A fiancé. Then a car accident. My hands were injured. She left. The contracts disappeared. When I recovered, the world had moved on. Eleanor listened silently. I tried to come back, he continued. But music had changed. I had changed. It hurt too much. So you hid, Eleanor said. I survived, he replied. Something inside her cracked. Over the following weeks, Eleanor found excuses to stay late. She asked Daniel questions. He answered cautiously at first, then more openly. He never asked her for anything. Never flirted. Never treated her like a prize. That unsettled her more than admiration ever had. One evening, she made him an offer. I want to sponsor you, she said. Lessons. A concert. A comeback. Daniel shook his head. I don't want charity. It's not charity, she insisted. It's belief. He looked at her for a long moment. And what do you want in return? She didn't answer right away. To hear the truth again. He agreed, on one condition. No publicity. Not yet. Eleanor promised. As Daniel practiced in private halls, his confidence returned. His music evolved, deeper than before. Eleanor attended every session, silently falling in love with the man who had nothing to prove. But success always attracts shadows. A powerful music producer recognized Daniel's playing online after a leaked clip went viral. He remembered Daniel from years ago and saw profit. The producer approached Eleanor, offering to fund a massive comeback tour, but only if Daniel signed exclusive rights that would strip him of creative control. Eleanor hesitated. When she brought it to Daniel, he shook his head immediately. I won't sell my soul again. Eleanor panicked. She feared losing him, not just musically, but emotionally. Without telling Daniel, she negotiated behind his back, believing she was protecting him. The night before the contract signing, Daniel discovered the truth. You don't trust me, he said, hurt filling his voice. I was trying to help, Eleanor replied. You were trying to control, he said quietly. He walked away. Days passed. No messages. No music. Eleanor realized something she had never admitted before. She had used money to solve everything in her life. This time, it had cost her the one thing she couldn't buy. At a charity gala weeks later, Eleanor stood alone. The piano sat untouched. Then Daniel walked in. He sat without looking at her. He played. This time, the music was different. It wasn't pain. It was forgiveness. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. When he finished, he stood and faced her. I don't need saving, he said. But I choose you, if you can stand beside me, not above me. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice trembling. I laughed at you. I challenged you like a game. And you changed my life. He smiled softly. You never answered your own joke. She took his hand. I wasn't laughing anymore. The crowd watched in silence as two people, once strangers divided by status and pride, found something real. Months later, Daniel performed on the world's greatest stages again. Eleanor sat in the audience, not as a millionaire patron, but as his partner. And every time he played, he remembered the night a careless laugh turned into destiny.